Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I think I'm live. Hear my voice, and if you can see my screen. Um, so let's quickly hear from everyone if you can hear my voice and if you can see my screen. So today's topic is all about delegates and events. So I'm starting 3 minutes prior out here. So basically, I know that we are going to go and start sharp at India time 4 o'clock, but I've just started 3 minutes prior so that I can check my mic. I can see that I can hear my voice. I can see people are live out there. So today's topic is around delegates and events. I know that this is a very simple topic. This is a very simple topic, but it is a very complex topic in terms of actually understanding delegates and events, right? So I want to know from people out here, developers who are now at this moment online, what is a delegate? In what scenarios you will use a delegate? If you can put one sentence out there on the chat saying that delegates are used for this, delegates is used for this, so we can start out here. So this topic is simple, but this topic is in developers a lot, and today in this 1 hour I'm going to go and try to reiterate, revisit, and see that if we can make more better understanding of delegates and events, right? So let us see what people put out there. There is some noise I can see. So Questpond support, can you just tell me if some kind of noise is coming in? Some noise out there. Is it raining? No. Hang on. Not sure. Okay. I can see delegates are used for callbacks. Actually, I switched off one fan out here, so I'm not sure if my voice is now more clear. I don't know if it was the fan what is making noise out there. Right, let me know if my voice is more clear now. Suppressed voice. So sad to see that. Why do people hear a suppressed voice? Really sad. Voice is clear. I can see Questpond team is saying voice is clear. So I can see a lot of people are putting out here. So guys, let us get started. That's why I started 3 minutes prior. A lot of people have started putting here, delegates is mainly used for callbacks. Absolutely. And I'm very glad that people have put out here that delegates are mostly used for callbacks. And today I will explain that sentence. What exactly does it mean that delegates are used for callbacks, right? And second, I can see that someone here, Amit, has pointed out here, delegates is kind of a function to a pointer, right? Now, function to a pointer, now that's something, So let me go back and let me share my screen out here and let us get started. So there are two sentences, which have come out. First one, and I call this sentence as an innocent sentence, that delegate is a pointer to a function. Pointer to a function means, for example, let me go and delete all this code out here. That's too much code out there. Okay, so sorry. We'll write a code from scratch, right? I'm going to go and delete all this. Okay. So this sentence, which is making noise everywhere, delegate is a pointer to a function, is actually a very confusing sentence. And because of this sentence, there is a lot of misinterpretation. There is a lot of confusion, right? So what do you mean by the delegate is a pointer to a function? For example, if you have a function out here, so let me first, so here's a function, let's say fun1, right? And just a simple console.writeLine. Hello, right? Now, what a lot of people say is that, okay, like we can go ahead and create a delegate. So I can go ahead and I can create a delegate, something like, let's say, some delegate, right? Please know that, understand that, people who are new to delegates, in case you are a fresher who has come out here, this delegate is, whatever structure of the delegate you define, means whatever is the return type and whatever is the input, right? The same should be of the function, right? So you can see I've created some delegate out here, and then we can go ahead and we can create an object of this delegate. So let's say some delegate, some del obj, right, is equal to null. And what I can do now is I can point this some del obj So I can really point this. Remember, it has to be static because I'm inside the static function. So I can just go and point towards fun1 out here, and I can say some del obj dot invoke. So you can see now over here, this delegate out here is pointing towards this fun1. You don't have to give these brackets, right? You can just say like this, and I'm saying invoke. So this is what a lot of people think, delegate is a pointer to a function. And now many people, because they start reading like this, then things start becoming very weird from here, right? So I think if you start reading delegate from this point of view, because now here I can really go and invoke this fun1 straightforward. I don't have to really go and point a delegate to a function and invoke it, right? I can just go and say fun1, isn't it? So this sentence, is, probably I would say that if people who are coming new to delegate, you should never teach them by using this sentence out there. Yes, technically delegate is a pointer to a function, and as many people have said out there, that the main intention of delegates is actually callbacks, right? And so the second thing, where I would like to really start from is, and I would like to set a stage out here, is that for delegates in normal scenarios, you can use it really. It is good to have a delegate in normal scenarios, but mostly, the scenario where delegates will really come to use, or I will say it is more compulsory, is, when you have a thread or a parallel scenario. In other words, so one is, guys, this delegate is a pointer to a function. You can see here that I am pointing this delegate to a function. I can say invoke, but I can also go and invoke delegate directly. So this sentence out here, if you start learning this way, it will be very confusing, right? So I can invoke directly. Why do I have to go and invoke indirectly, right? So logically speaking, this is not the real use of delegate, right? So it is just not a pointer to a function. But the next thing, which I've seen on the chat, and which is definitely very important, is the callback, right? So now again, like callback also has a scenario. You can't just do callbacks everywhere. Callback should have multi-threading or parallel processing or something. Means, in other words, you have a process out here. So, what happened to my... so, this is so weird. Should I plug it here? You should always be prepared, especially for a live class. So basically, now think about, you have some parallel process out here going on. So let's say this is some logic which is happening out here, logic 1, and there is some other logic. This logic 1 goes and invokes a logic 2 which is running parallelly, right? So this is a logic 2 here which is running parallelly, right? Now in this logic 2, there is something happening out here, and you want that this logic 2 should actually keep informing logic 1 that what is the current status, or what is the thing, right? And this is where people say delegate is a callback. Callback means what? That basically somewhere the logic 1 will pass something to logic 2, and the logic 2 via that will keep communicating to logic 1 saying that, hey, like I have finished till here, I have finished till here. So what I'm saying is parallel processing, some kind of thing out here where the two logics or two codes, they are running asynchronously, they are running parallelly, and they want to keep communicating, right, in between. Now remember that a lot of people, think about global variables. Some people say that, okay, how about creating a global variable? But that can be a mess, because he updates and then some other thread updates, and this can cause a catastrophe, right? And that's where delegate comes into picture. So for example, let me first go and demonstrate a code out here, and once I demonstrate this code, we can go and then talk more into the importance of delegates. So let me prove that sentence, that delegates most important use is callbacks. And when you talk about callbacks, we are talking about parallel processing, right? So let me go and create a class here called as sum class, right? And let's say this sum class has some logic, or I will say some huge process out here which is running. This huge process can be anything, right? For example, at this moment, I will just say thread.sleep of 5 seconds, right? It is just a thread.sleep of 5 seconds, okay? Let's mark this huge logic with some for loop out here. So you can see here I'm executing a for loop of something of 10,000, and this huge logic is going and executing this, right? Now this sum class object you are creating out here, let me delete all this. I'm just trying to set the stage. I'm just trying to make you understand what does that word callback means, right? So now this is sum class out here, and I create the object of sum class. X is equal to new sum class, right? And x dot huge process. And let's say I do a console dot write line. Program.cs, this is program the main thread, and then console.read. So now in this case, we have two logics out here. So one is this main logic, where he's displaying program.cs, or must be he doing some logic out here. He is doing console.read line, and there is another process, which is this huge for loop out here. And we want that. So basically what we want out here is, we want that this should be asynchronous, or I can say this should be parallel in nature. Means if you see out here, so this is this huge process out here, which will keep running this, right? Now, so when this main logic runs out here, it comes to this huge process, and it just stands out here. It just gets blocked out here, and this next line of code will never be run. Why? Because this is a synchronous call. So now we'll say, okay, like let's make an asynchronous call. An asynchronous call means the main thread will run, and this sum class, this huge process, we will run on some another thread, right? So let me go and do a modification out there. Let me go and change out here. So let me use a thread. So we can use a thread, we can use a task, and so on, right? So I'm going to go and use a thread out here and run them, try to run them parallelly, or try to run them. So new thread start, I'm sorry, so okay, x dot huge process. I've forgotten the syntaxes of thread, so thread dot start. So now you can see here, now this is multi-threading. So what I'm doing is, this huge process is now going to go and run on some different thread, and this program.cs will run on the main thread. So basically now what we have out here is, we have two threads out here, right? So we have two threads out here. So basically we will have a main thread, right? So we will have this main thread which will keep running, right? And he will also run program.cs, right? And this t.start, when he says t.start, this sum class, this logic out here will run on some another thread, must be t2. So this is running on t1, this is running on t2. Now what I want is, I want that from this I variable which it is looping, right? I want that this I variable value should be sent now and then in every 5 seconds to the main thread. So basically I have this t1 out here, I have this t2 out here, this t2 is doing this for loop, and I want that every 5 seconds without disturbing, he should keep sending him the message. And that's where we want a callback. That's where we want to use a delegate. Why I'm saying so much out here is because talking about delegates and not talking about parallel processes or threads or what do you say, asynchronous, then it does not make sense. So when you start with a sentence, why people find delegates to be confusing is because they start with a sentence saying that delegate is a pointer to a function, and they start thinking something different. But if someone teaches them saying that, no, like first thing, we have a parallel processing, and in that parallel processing, we want to keep sending some messages from one thread to another thread, or from one process to another process, right? So over here now, I would like to go and create a delegate, because I want to pass this value I now and then to the main thread, right? So must be in this main thread, I can create a method here called as, let's create a method called as receiver. So this receiver would receive that value int I out here, right? And I want it to be called. So we can just say console.writeLine, and this I will be received into the main.program.cs, right? So now what I need to do is, I need to go and create a delegate. So what we can do is, let us create a delegate out here called as, so we can say that this is a receiver, or must be I can keep a name out here. Let's say receiver. Let's keep a name as receiver. And let's say that this here, you can see from this sum class, I'm exposing out a delegate, and this delegate we can say sender. So this basically sends, and that guy will receive out there, right? So this is a delegate. Now remember that you can't use this delegate. This is a declaration of the delegate. Declaration of delegate. We need to go and create an object. So I'll just say here sender sobj is equal to null, right? And over here, after this thread.sleep, I'll say sobj invoke it. So here now what I'm doing is I'm making a callback, right? I'm making a callback to any who will pass their functions out here. So for example, over here now, in this I will say x dot, so what is your sender object? So s dot sobj must be, I can say sender. Let me use the word sender. It looks nice. Send. So the sender, I am attaching my receiver out here. Look at this. This is my receiver out here. So here I am connecting my class function with the delegate, right? So now what will happen is, now our program.cs will keep moving ahead, and now and then, from this huge process, we will get data over here. I can see something out here as, okay, sender. So sender, right? So if you see now, I'll put a debug point here. I'll put a debug point over here, right? So first thing, I'll run this. I'm trying to explain what does it mean when people say delegate is a callback. I've seen developer just talking delegate is a callback, delegate is a pointer to a function. So you can see here my thread has moved ahead. My thread moved ahead, my main thread, right? And you can see there is another thread. This is a second thread. If you really go to debug threads out here, if you really go to debug windows and threads, if you see out here, you will see two threads out here. You can see there are two threads. One thread is the main thread, and the another thread is a worker thread, where this huge process is running. So we have two threads, guys, right? So you can see we have two threads out here. So here now, from here you can see it goes and says thread.sleep, that goes for 5 seconds. The main dot thread is also waiting here. You can see as soon as the 5-second finishes out here, you can see now the sender has finished his, huge process has finished his 5 seconds. He says, okay, callback, and the callback goes here to the receiver, right? So you can see now happily the sender every 5 seconds will come, keep invoking, and the main thread is also running parallelly. So the main use of delegates, when you talk about applications, is that basically you have two parallel processes, and you want, both of the parallel processes should run, and the communication between them happens through delegates. So guys, I'm trying to set a stage out here. So that's the second statement. That first is, this is an innocent statement. That's why I written innocence. When some developer comes and says that delegate is a pointer to a function, I understand that he has understood how to write the code, but he does not know where to use it. Now, when some developer says that, oh, like delegate means callback, I also understand that he has understood, that he understands that thread and parallel processing, or I can also say asynchronous, is the prerequisite for delegates. Just using delegates here and there does not make sense. There should be something, which is parallel processing out there, right? You can use it. You don't need to have a multi-threaded application, right? But I'm saying that if there is no parallel processing and if you're using delegates, then you should ask the question that why you're using it, right? So that's the first statement I want to point out here, that delegate is a callback and it is used for callbacks, and specifically, when you have parallel processing, it comes into picture. So let me now go back to the chat window out there, and let's see that, voice is too low. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know if really the voice is low. Please, can someone comment out there that if my voice is really low. Is delegate, very good statement from here. Let me go back from the top. I can see, so delegate is mainly used for callback. So I think I tried to put a stage out here to make everyone convinced that this is what the callback means, right? The voice is very low. I'm really very surprised, right, on that part. Oh gosh, why is the voice low? Damn it, I don't know, guys. Right, okay, that's so sad. Okay, covariance, contravariance next time. So guys, I want some inputs out here, and I don't want inputs, just this is, I will not take this as a training class. Must be we can have a discussion, because I know that everybody has done delegates sometime or later, right? So it's it's more for discussion purpose. This you can say that this is a meeting where only I am speaking, but you guys can please contribute. You can contradict me, and I can probably try to add more value to it, right? So mainly used in real examples. So Sandeep's question out here is that, sir, can you tell me that in real time, where we can use it? For example, you are searching a file in a folder. I'm just giving you an example, Sandeep. You are searching a file in a folder. So now you have a huge loop. You have a very big loop, which keeps going out there, and from there you will see once you get a file. So if you ever seen your search of Windows, right? If you ever go and search in Windows, if you search a file star.txt, you will find that your main window is on one thread, and there is another thread, which actually is going and searching the file, and every now and then he is making a callback to the UI and displaying the file names, right? Okay. Okay, now the next thing, which I would like to really talk about here is multicast delegate, as Vasu has said out here. So multicast delegates, yeah. So let me go back, guys. Let me go to the next thing out here. So there's a next topic which I've kept out here. So one is, one is we are talking about callback. Now let's talk about broadcasting. That is what the next level of delegates is. So if you really ask me, in my mind, I always have this thought, whenever I'm teaching a student, that if somebody wants to learn delegates, he should first understand that the basic or the prerequisite that there should be some kind of a thread, there should be some kind of a parallel processing, right? Or else delegates will really go above your head. Now once you understand delegates, delegates gets graduated to something called as broadcasting, or I can say multicast delegate. And that final nirvana, the final thing, which like a lot of people would like to really see is the events. So I feel that when you try to explain to delegates to someone, right, if you follow this process, must be, he will understand it, right? So let me now talk about the next step out here, multicasting. Multicasting means what? So over here now, I have only one receiver. Now let us say I have many receivers out here. Let's say this is receiver 1 and this is receiver. So this is receiver 1 and this is receiver 2, right? So I want that as soon as he says send, I want that all of these receivers should receive it. So we can just go and say here, so this is receiver 1, right? I.2 string. This is receiver 2 plus I.2 string, right? And this is just receiver out here. So receiver I.2 string, right? So now I have this receiver 1, receiver 2 and everyone, right? So what you can do is you can just go and change a small line out there. You don't really have to stress yourself too much, just one small line change out there. You can see this x.sender, rather than just saying equal to, you will say plus equal to. That's it. A plus equal to signifies that means now you have multiple receivers, right? Now this receiver word is great, I'm going to go and rename this receiver to publisher and subscriber later on, so please hang on, right? So you can see here now I can say, oh, the another receiver out here is receiver 1 and another receiver out here is receiver 2. So this is called as subscribing. Subscribing means you are attaching your function to the sender out here, right? If you want to unsubscribe, sometimes down later you can say x.sender minus equal to. So this will actually, receiver 2 will stop receiving messages, right? So this is termed as multicast delegate. So if you see out here now, if I run this with one send out here, I will see multiple receives now. So if I go and run this, and if you watch here, so 5 seconds, so you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see now it has sent 3 messages. There are 3 receivers actually. He has sent message only once, right? So this is called as broadcasting. Let us not say publisher subscriber. I can see that on the, over there someone had said publisher subscriber, but at this moment I will just say broadcasting, right? So basically publisher and subscriber is a different kind of level altogether, right? Right, so this is termed as multicast delegate. So that's what the next thing which people should understand is that multicasting means you had a very simple callback, must be like 1-to-1, one sender, one receiver, but if you say you want to convert it to a multicast, you can just say plus equal to, right? And the final one, and I'll come to this later on, I'll go back and let's have some discussion out there. And now the final one is events, right? So guys, any questions on multicast and any discussions we can have on multicast? So let me go back. Let me go back out there. Okay, so let's I think it's in our position with the mic now. Good. Event versus delegates. I'm going to come, Nikhil. I will talk about events versus delegates. At this moment I've talked about delegates, I've talked about multicast delegates. So we are trying to graduate out here, and then I will talk about events. Any practical use of multicast delegate? So Ajay, if you see around, right, for example, if you raise an error from an application, you want that error should go to a log file, you want that error should go to a database, you want that error should go to some other service, right? So a multicast delegate means you send a message out there, and there are lots of receivers, and those receivers can then go and log it into their respective this one, so that's what the use of it is. Do we have any benefits of using thread to copy a bunch of files from one location to another location, maybe on the same machine or on the network? See, Rashid, the main goal of threads is that you want to run something parallelly. You have 2 tasks out there. The user is putting an input, you want to run some background processing, at the same time you want to download files. So benefit means, like over here, if you want to do things parallelly, then you will use threading, or else you won't use it. Yes, so Pawan's question here, after this session, can we check this offline? Yes, I will give you the source code, you can check this offline. So suppose we got any issues with receiver 1, will we get notification to receiver 2? So there's a question from Satya here. So I think we should not have problems, it should still continue. I don't think we should have issues. That's a very good point you have made, Murthy. Observer pattern, observer design pattern definitely falls not into the multicasting category. The next thing which I will discuss, Murthy sir, events. I'm going to go and put down a note out here, Murthy sir, so that we'll remember these events, or I will say observer pattern, observer design pattern. Yeah, all of these keywords all come together. Thanks for the inputs. Pros and cons of using delegates. Right, so pros and cons. See, I don't find any con of using a delegate actually. If you use it unnecessarily, it is a con. But if you are using it for communicating between parallel processes, it's always advantageous, right? Okay, now let's go back and let's talk about events, right? Now let me go again and share my screen. There it is. And please guys, you can see down below I have flashed out my website. I always believe that these small concepts are very important. Somebody asked me about contra-variance, covariance. Somebody asked me about repository pattern. Somebody asked me about enumerator as well, enumerable, right? These small concepts, even if you do in a week, like 15 minutes, not more. I'm not saying you have to do it at Questpond only, you can do it wherever you wish. In Questpond only, yes, I have this, I have the whole bunch of tutorial out here, which is very focused around .NET. So if you get a chance, please visit questpond.com. Where I have one section, I have a lot of sections out here. I have Azure, I have data science, I have React, I have SQL performance tuning, ASP.NET MVC core. For freshers, I have something, and a lot of things out there, right? But there's one very special section when it comes to preparation is the .NET fundamental section. Over here, I have focused only on the fundamentals, like what is JIT? To see JIT actually, it's not just to learn from textbooks and say JIT means this, right? For example, what exactly is the app domain? To execute, so a lot of people will say, okay, app domain means it's a separate memory space and blah blah blah. But can I see it? Can I execute it? For example, look at the delegates now. I'm actually coding a delegate. Then I'm saying, okay, like there is a multicast delegate. Okay, in what scenarios I will use them? So when you actually learn the concepts in a more practical manner, in a more concise manner, you never forget that concept. So what I've done is there is a special to my heart section out here, which I say the Q&A section. One is the name is Q&A, but in this Q&A section I have debunked this small thing like garbage collector. What is it? GC0, GC1, GC2, or what do you mean by C sharps are immutable? Right? This is something people talk about it, and that's my favorite topic, definitely, right? What is anonymous method? What is lambda expression? What is this I disposable? What do you mean by finalize? So I would suggest that please go through. Definitely all the videos are important out here, but must be that's the video which you can focus around, right? So coming back again, let's go back to events. So again out here, let me draw a diagram. I love to draw diagrams, right? So first thing, one-to-one communication. I have two threads. So this thread keeps communicating him back. Delegates. Graduating, multicast delegate, right? Oh, a lot of people want to listen out here, right? So you have one, must be you have, I'm creating a thread out here, must be, I will say that you have multiple points out here, right? So you have, this is your sender, so he's sending message out here, he's sending him the message, he's also sending him the message. Multicast delegate, right? Now there is something here called as events. And this events, talks about a very important mechanism called as publisher and subscriber mechanism, right? Now, what is the difference between a publisher and a subscriber and a multicast delegate? Because publisher subscriber means what? You have one publisher, right? You have lots of subscribers. For at this moment, I have that receive one method, and then I have received two method, and I have received three method. So all of these guys are actually, so the question comes is that isn't this publisher subscriber? Isn't multicasting a publisher subscriber? That's the first question, right? So guys, here it is. This is not publisher subscriber, because here we have an issue of naked delegates. Must be, I can put down a point out here, the problem of naked delegates, the problem of naked delegates. What is this problem? If you see out here, this delegate which is exposed out, this is the delegate object. It is public. I have to make it public. Why? Because if I don't make this sender as public, how I can attach it? Now think about it, that this x.sender, someone goes down there and goes and says it is null. In a publisher subscriber mechanism, the subscriber can never go and do anything with the publisher. For example, look at the news channel. When you're watching your TV, right? You can't go and slap the news guy, right? He will keep talking to you, and the only thing you can do is you can switch off your TV, or I'll say you can unsubscribe it. Isn't it? So that is a publisher subscriber mechanism. This is not a publisher. If I can go and slap the TV guy, that's not a publisher subscriber mechanism. That is a multi-way communication. So you can see here, this guy is the client main, and he has the audacity, or he has the power, I will say rather, to make this as null. And if he makes this as null, all the receivers are gone bonkers. Nobody will get any message out here. This should not be allowed. In case of a pure publisher subscriber mechanism, this should not be allowed. That's why I tell broadcasting. Broadcasting means he can talk to him, he can talk to him, everybody can talk to each other, they can manipulate each other, right? They have everybody's phone is everybody's mouth, that kind of thing it is, right? So if you see out here, if I run this will give me an error, because the client has the power to go and make the delegate, the exposed delegate as null. That's why I use that word naked delegate. You can see out here, it is making a null reference. So this some class who is exposing this sender out here, he does not have any control. He says, I can't do anything. I want to make it public, but this guy is coming and making me null because I am public. So this is termed as a naked delegate, right? So if you want a pure publisher subscriber mechanism, that means you need to go and make this as a event. Look at this, one keyword. I'm just changing one keyword. So event uses delegates. events encapsulates delegates. It changes that multicasting, that broadcasting, I don't know what word you want to use, broadcasting is the right word, into a publisher subscriber mechanism. So when I say event out here, one word change I've done, and you can see out here I'm getting an error. He says you can subscribe, you can do plus equal to, you can do minus equal to, this is not allowed. That plus equal to is not allowed anymore, right? Now this is termed as a pure publisher subscriber mechanism. This will work the same way as it was working. I've done no code changes out here, right? So you can see here program.cs, and so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can see that's the first message, the second message after 5 seconds, and everything is working as usual as functionality. But in publisher subscriber mechanism, the client cannot manipulate the delegate instance. Must be, I can explicitly write that sentence out here. A publisher mechanism, an observer design pattern. This is also termed as an observer. Observer means what? The other person can only observe it. He can subscribe it, he can unsubscribe it, but he cannot destroy that radio channel. For example, to a radio, you can on the button, you can off the button, but you can't go to the radio station and do something out there, right? It is not in your control, isn't it? So you can also say, that's why a lot of people use this, another sentence, event is an encapsulation over delegates. I don't know if you ever heard this word, this sentence around. Event is an encapsulation over delegates, right? It is a pure publisher subscriber mechanism. So, where is my diagram? That diagram. So, must be I can just draw a visual diagram out there, and then I can go back to discussions, right? So basically, one is like just sending it from the sender to the receiver now and then, right? This is the pure delegate. Second one, the sender is sending to multiple receivers, multicasting, right? But the receiver has the audacity to go and make this as null, the sender, isn't it? He also has, if he wants, he can go and do something, to the sender, and the sender can have errors, right? Now we come to the pure publisher subscriber mechanism, where and let me not use the word sender henceforth, I'll say publisher, and this is the subscriber. That's what it is. There is no way this sender can even touch this publisher. He is not allowed. He can only do plus equal to, or he can only do minus equal to. So that's why you will always see this diagram out there on the internet, publisher, subscriber, and that's what it is, events, right? So for example, in a news channel, when some event occurs, everybody who is subscribed to Twitter, who is subscribed to that TV, who is on the radio, they hear it, they get the message because you have subscribed to it, but you can't do anything to the person who is actually sending the event message, right? So guys, any questions, any inputs? I want inputs more. I understand that everybody has done this. The point here is not a training, the point here is more of a conversation. So let me know if any questions, any inputs. So I am again going back out there. Yes, Tarun, this is Shiv Prasad Koirala here. Yeah, this is my channel, and I am Shiv Prasad Koirala. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so let's go back. YouTube subscriber and notification are working on the same logic. Yes, Satya Prakash, absolutely. Okay, Rashid, this can be a very good topic for the next time. What is the difference between TPL and threads? Async and await and TPL and threads and asynchronous and parallel, we can have another discussion. When use of delegate is good, few example please. SignalR uses publisher subscriber, yes, absolutely. SignalR uses publisher subscriber. Your Azure Service Bus is publisher subscriber, and lots of things out there in the world are publisher subscriber. Okay, generic delegate, Sandeep, if you just go and you can attach a data type to the as greater than and less than, and you can make it generic. So rather than saying that this will only give string out, or output will be only numeric, you can just say a generic delegate. So by using generic, it just make it generic, but the basic concept of delegate does not change even if it is generic or non-generic. Okay. Right, so any questions, any queries out here? So let me go back again to my notepad out there. So let me just reiterate what I've said. So innocently, a lot of developers say that delegate is a pointer to a function, right? And I put one important statement out here, that delegate is meant for callbacks. I'll just summarize what we learned in this class. That is the first statement I want to make here. Delegates can be converted to multicast delegate by just using plus equal to. So delegates can be converted to multicast delegate by just equal to plus equal to and minus equal to. But in multicast delegate, client, I don't know, this is a very harsh word, can destroy can manipulate, I'm sorry, let me make it soft, can manipulate the sender's delegate object. And that's where we qualify ourselves to events. Event is a pure, I'm capitalizing that pure. Event is a pure publisher subscriber model, right? And also one statement which keeps going around, in every developer talks about it, event is an encapsulation over delegates. And must be one word which is actually I'll not say invented, but it just came into my head as I was teaching so many years, that in case of multicast delegate, the delegate is naked. That word naked is crude, but it makes sense in this scenario, right? In multicast delegate, the delegate is exposed nakedly, is naked, or not private, or not, it's naked, it can be destroyed, it can be manipulated, right? So I think these are some of the sentences, if you can keep in your head, and this sample code out here, if you put in your head out there, I think you will understand what is events, what is delegates, what is a multicast delegate, right? Delegate is meant for callbacks. This is a technically right statement, but it can be a very confusing statement for people out there. For example, someone said out here, delegate is for decoupling. I can understand that statement, but that statement is that's not the motive of delegate. That is the motive of interfaces must be. I'll tell you why that sentence comes. Delegate is decoupling. Why? Because I can now create a delegate. Let me talk about that sentence. That sentence is again, it actually goes away from the main motive. I can take a delegate, let's say, which is, let's say, a maths function, which has num1 and num2. I can point towards add, I can point towards subtract, I can point towards division. Now, this can look like that, okay, so that means that I am decoupling the methods. There is no point of decoupling methods. You can decouple a complete class, by putting an interface, right? So this is not really the use of delegate, okay? Must be we can say that it is one of those side things, right? It is one of those brownie points, but that's not the real use of delegate. So I can just put here brownie points. Delegate is to decouple method logic, right? So, but it's a brownie point out there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these 6 statements out there, I will be pasting down on the YouTube channel chat. It must be you guys can have a look at it. You can understand it. So any questions, any queries? Oh, I can't paste it, because it's too many out there. Fine, I will give you the text file. Okay. So yeah, Satya, very good question. I like that. How we can explain an event from interview purpose. So Satya, out here, when you're talking in interviews, please use those proper technical vocabulary. For example, if I'm supposed to definitely answer in the interview, I'll say delegate is for callbacks. And the next question the interviewer will ask is that, what do you mean by callbacks? So callback means, I have 2 threads which are running, and I want to establish a communication mechanism between them. Then I will use delegates. So when do we use events? I will use events, when I have a publisher subscriber model. So what do you mean by a publisher subscriber model? Wherein, you know, I have again a multi-threaded environment, must be a parallel environment, but I publish from one place and it has to go to this thread, it has to go to that thread, it has to go to multiple places. You know, for example, the error handling which I talked about. Your application is running, you want to just publish and say, hey, like this error goes to log files, to event viewers. So give some examples also out there, right? So I think it's pretty simple out there, but please don't answer something, you know, which can lead to more questions. For example, if you start with saying like, okay, delegate is a pointer to a function, the next question he will put a trap to you and say, okay, so can't I invoke the function directly? And then you are in a loop, right? So make your fundamentals clear, make your roadmap clear, write some sample code, convince yourself first thing. If you get convinced, you know, you can always answer clearly. Delegates are thread safety? No, like, so depends on the delegates. A question from Murthy sir here. Is delegates, you know, for thread safe? See, thread safety is a different topic. Must be, that can be a different topic out there. Thread safety means what? There are two threads, you know, they are manipulating the same variable or same object, and it is leading to undesired results. That is the thread safety out here. So it does not have any direct connection to delegates, but delegates by default are not thread safe until that object is thread safe. That is the responsible of the delegate logic to make it thread safe. So by default they are not thread safe. Okay, so thank you very much everyone. Looks like no questions out here. There is one small request out here. You know, please try to share this video somewhere, you know, on your LinkedIn, or must be on your Facebook, on your Twitter, you know. Why? Because I feel that, you know, when you have such kind of discussion, for example, what I did here is, today I didn't really have an agenda. That agenda I prepared 5 minutes back. And I went ahead first to the chat window. I took some sentences from the chat window and then I started explaining and discussing. Also, I learned some new things from today's chat, right? So the point here was not really training, you know, it was really about discussion. It is also about making things more clarified, making, you know, things more crystal clear, right? So please go ahead and share, you know, this video somewhere, and must be we can have such more discussion. And please write down on the chat there, sir, can we have a discussion on, like, I like that topic which someone said out here, can we have a discussion on dependency injection? Yes, that's a good topic, right? And so on. All right, so anything, Kelly, about the course, etc., you can please talk to Questpond. We can talk here only on the topic. If you have any questions, you know, you can really go ahead and talk to Questpond out there. Yeah, how to, yeah. So Sandeep sir, please send a mail out there. Don't talk about any buying out here. If you want to buy, you send a message to Questpond. We can talk about the topic out here. Questpond@questpond.com. Thank you, sir. Microsoft made .NET and God created you for us. Yeah, God is great. God has created everyone. And frankly speaking, Nikhil, I'm not so smart. I'm very dumb. I'm damn dumb. And because I'm dumb, that's why I draw diagrams. I try to convince myself, you know. If I was smarter, then I won't have made such things simple, right? So I feel my strongest point as a person is that I have a very, very bad logic of understanding. I have a very slow brain. And that's what makes me a good trainer probably, right? So yes, God has made me dumb, and because of this dump, you know, I try to make things more simplified. I try to draw diagrams. I try to collaborate. I make my own mistakes. I also learn along the way. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks a lot. And must be you can put down, you know, what is the next topic we can have in our session, and we can definitely take that as a topic. Yeah, Mohammed, you can use events in entity framework. You can use in update and delete and so on. You know, one of the things, you know, very good point here, Mohammed. I can make an exception for that statement, saying that you can use delegates when you don't have multi-threading also. You know why? Because it makes your code clean. It just says event from here, event from there. So an event-driven kind of code, you know, looks very easy to understand. So from the coding perspective, I've seen people using events, and even when there is no multi-threading, because it makes your code more clean, right? Solid principles, yes, we can take that. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day. And I have taken all the questions out there. Thank you.